You should be able to just hit the red buttons on the 2 camera controls. Yeah. And then on my headphones, if I could get a little more of the main, I had it -10 because I didn't know what it was going to be like.
Are you on bus 2?
2, I think, yeah. Yep, that's it. Rolling! You got your headphones up?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good.
Probably people think of crack as being dirty. It's the exact opposite. When you make crack, what you're doing is you're burning off all the impurities so that it combines with the sodium bicarbonate, which makes it smokable. That's all.
It's Hunter Biden.
It's good stuff. That's all, man. All you gotta do is...
And there are ancient legends that talk about a moonless sky when the moon arrived. And when it arrived, it caused a great flood.
What are the ancient stories of a moonless sky? Where are they from?
Ancient Indian texts will have it, but also native
Is that
legends
Joe Rogan?
will have it about the moon, about a moonless sky, and then the moon arrives. And
When do they think the moon arrived?
Can you pitch my camera
it's
up a little
hard
bit?
to tell.
My
You know,
head
I
isn't
always
it?
go to younger dries, but who really knows?
Control
The
sticks
Earth
on the
was
bottom right.
apparently just covered in this haze, just very wet, very hazy, maybe like Venus or something
Push and
like
hold.
that. Then the moon arrives, and all that water from the atmosphere drops down to Earth. The
Push and
tidal
hold wire?
forces are crazy. There's a
It's like
huge
a
flood, and everything just
gray
settles, and then the
joystick on
moon is
bottom
here.
right.
And the moon is now like the guardian of the planet, which it really is. We couldn't really survive without it. And there are ancient legends that talk about a moonless.
I mean, there's one that just says fast follow tilt lock.
No. It's the circular one.
I got a pause button.
To the left of that.
There's literally nothing there. I'm trying not to be an idiot. Oh, there it just appeared. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
How's that feel? How's that look?
Yeah.
Release the list. That's what they said with the skyward fist. Co-opting the optics of those who resist. The depravities of the unspeakably rich.
Yeah.
Oh, but here's the twist. Now they're in power and its case dismissed. And if you speak out, it's cease or desist. Bow down while they insult your intelligence. Now that they're in the room with the elephant. The bob I wear for the hell of it. Anything to make that seem irrelevant. Release the list.
See? Isn't that great? Welcome back to Jacob V Weekly. We want to start like we do every week by reminding you to check out Caddyshack of Hamel, Illinois. Save a life or 9. CaddyshackIL.org. JacobV.com. Stay up to date with the show, all of the different events we're doing, God, free Daniel. Patreon.com, Jacob V is the only way to support this show financially, and I could use it because I've been on summer break and I've been mostly researching the subject we're going to be mostly covering today, which I have some notes for. I think those are also open on a...
I see him right here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And, got to cultivate. So this all started when a couple weeks ago for me when the Epstein stuff started popping back up again. It never really left my algorithm, but it's been huge. And this week it's the only thing any podcast is talking about.
Absolutely.
So I thought, I'm doing all this research anyway. I read 2 books by Whitney Webb, who is a scholar and a journalist and a genius. And she lives in hiding in Chile because she keeps it too real.
Oh, okay.
And some notes. I've also been reading A People's History of the United States, which is like all the grimier aspects of a lot of the historical situations behind the nation we live in and the stuff that they leave out in school. That's older. That came out in 2009, I think. One thing he says is, nations are not communities and have never been. And what he means by that is, the political and certainly military colonial forces don't represent what's great about the communities that they protect and serve, right? And that's going to be relevant to our conversation today.
Okay. Yeah.
For example, Israel is a nation and a political entity that's going to come up in conversation, but not to us or to really any of the people involved does that really include a religious aspect, right? The word Israel is going to come up a lot, some of this coverage, and we're talking about the political forces of Israel over the last 90 years. At no point does any of the stuff I read refer to Israel in the biblical sense or in any sort of faith-based
We're
paradigm.
talking about the nation.
We're talking about the nation, and really it's
power.
not even like the whole nation. It's really just a handful of people who have been powerful and adjacent to Israel. It really could have been any nation. We're not actually even really talking about the whole nation, but very powerful individuals. Oh, I wrote that, who represented or controlled interest therein. You're going to notice a theme that a lot of the names that are going to come up have had ties and commitments to Israel, but really at no point is it about religion even for them. I read both of Whitney's books, Volume 1 and Volume 2 of One Nation Under Blackmail. They're so in-depth and they're so detailed, but they're also not speculative or elaborative, certainly not beyond reason. It's totally stacked with research and receipts and things that she could tell you where she read it because it's in public documents or previous research. It's all from somewhere. So Trump is the scandal with the whole Epstein thing today as we sit here, but he's sort of the most recent twist in a very, very long story that predates him being president. It predates even Jeffrey Epstein being involved in anything. Because the reason there's two books is because one is everything that led up to where Epstein kind of picked up, and then the second one is everything kind of Epstein was up to until he died. And so it's much bigger than even those two dudes. Trump is also not separate from the Democrats that he accuses of this, like, at all. The Clintons were at his wedding to Melania. I believe it's rumored that he met Melania on that plane that Bill Clinton and him flew on so much. And we know before Trump was politically involved, he was always donating to Clinton's campaigns. That happened a lot.
I did not know that.
He gave him millions for years. And the books kind of entail, the conversation includes a lot of money laundering, war crimes, arms trading. It really all starts with arms trading. When, you have conflicts in other nations in the 20th century that you can't go over and get involved with yourself, but you want it to go a certain way. And so a lot of these people we're going to talk about are involved in like that. It's the origin of their wealth and their business. Bank fraud, tons of bank fraud, tax evasion, political blackmail we know a little more about, and most certainly not limited to that of a sexual nature. Before we really ever talk about any of the scandalous, more contemporary sexual blackmail stuff, we see tons of stuff about different organizations and politicians and their counterparts and collaborators in organized crime collaborating for schemes involving selling weapons, laundering money. The same network of people was involved in Iran-Contra, which was a huge scandal. And that involved Barry Seal, who was the CIA pilot who used to traffic cocaine for the CIA.
I have no. I don't know.
Barry Seal, he was in a Tom Cruise movie. No, he wasn't in a Tom Cruise movie. Tom Cruise played him in a movie.
Oh, okay.
Called American Made, I think. And this guy was a pilot who was getting paid by the CIA and had Bill Clinton's phone number and stuff like that for flying cocaine across the border. And then they also used him to board and train, I think, like fighters for the Iran-Contra scandal thing.
What's the scandal? What's the
that was again, this was like before we were born, so this one I know a little less about. It's just a kind of tangential to this, but I think we were like taking people from South America and training them for combat and then sending them to Iran.
Oh, wow.
We'll check on that if we have time.
Okay.
here's where Israel kind of comes in this pattern of this behavior I was reading about is there's people that buy weapons from a fallen government, or they uncover political secrets, and Israel or Russia or China at different times are places where you could sell that stuff, right? And Israel's also been really aggressive about acquiring things of that nature. And, for example, there's a whole section in Whitney Webb's first book, I think, called Chinagate, which is all about this scandal of Clinton's where there was like a member of the Chinese Communist Party that was repeatedly working in the White House, visiting and reporting to and holding meetings at the White House, and that there was all sorts of not okay kind of deals being made between Clinton's White House and political actors in China that it came out to some extent and was kind of she dives way deep into that. Here's the thing. Bill Clinton was doing all these dirty deals with China to get reelected for a second term, and also people are selling weapons to Israel that Israel can then immediately sell to China or somebody that we can't sell weapons to. So this is a big part of how this starts is we can sell Israel stuff because we're an ally with them allegedly. Yeah. But then if they want to sell it to China or Kazakhstan or anybody at all, they can totally do that. And this is covered at length in this book to kind of, I think Whitney Webb is trying to illustrate how vast of a problem the kind of behavior Jeffrey Epstein is thought to have been doing really is.
Yes.
And they're long books. It took me this goes all the way back. The whole story kind of starts on February 9th, 1942, with a ship called the Normandy that was allegedly sabotaged by Germans. And what happens when that happens is intelligence organizations, which are newer in the U.S. at the time, begin communicating with and collaborating with organized crime on the waterfront for the first time.
Yeah.
Right? So mob-affiliated people kind of working in tandem with, in cooperation with, it probably was the OSS then. We didn't have the CIA yet, I don't think. And this started with people like Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello, and went on to be known as Operation Underworld. And this is a big part of where the source for this book comes from is after so much time, when everybody that was involved is dead, stuff just gets released. Because if you classify something a lot of the time, it's supposed to be committed that it's not going to stay classified forever. Operation Underworld is sort of the documentable point where we see groups like the CIA or the NSA or foreign intelligence collaborating with organized crime, which ends up being a huge part of how it becomes so powerful. 1931, Lucky Luciano begins threatening political campaigns in favor of Roosevelt. Right? And so this is an early example of some of this behavior where political blackmail is being used by organized crime. And then 11 years later, those same people are working, not selling out their friends to the CIA or the FBI, but actually having common goals with them, which also becomes a problem, like I mentioned with Barry Seal. The CIA using cocaine money to fund projects that they're not supposed to have funding for because they haven't been approved by anything.
Yeah. That's why they were flying in the cocaine.
Yeah.
To sell it.
Yeah.
To fund the.
Yeah. And then they had all this cocaine, so they invented crack, which is what Hunter was telling us how to make at the top of the show. Then we have this guy, Roy Cohn, who emerges. Okay. Roy Cohn was eventually Donald Trump's mentor and legal authority when Trump was a young gentleman. But he sort of pioneers this idea of dirt, of collecting scandal and secrets and receipts and incriminating evidence, and then waiting until he needs to use it, then using it, and then he establishes what Whitney Webb calls his favor bank. And this is a lot like how the Dixieland Mafia worked, like the people that probably shot JFK and the people that did a lot of organized crime type stuff down there. It wasn't like a big thing with tons of paperwork where you're exchanging money all the time.
Yeah.
We might not exchange money for an operation at all. I might say, listen, protect this liquor I'm importing. And then next week, I'm going to do an equally as important thing for you. But
Okay.
we're not exchanging money. We're making money off the things that we need help with. So if we have that common understanding, it's all off the books and it's completely decentralized.
Is that what they would call a quid pro quo?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot safer, especially in the last 100 years than paying people outright for things.
Yeah.
It's also much more how society used to work. Like if I had a farm and a guy down the road from me provided a service that I needed, I'm going to make sure my farm takes care of him
Yeah.
in some way. So he can keep doing whatever the thing. Maybe he's a dentist. You know what I mean? Or maybe he knows how to fry chicken real good.
Yeah.
And so if he needs chickens to fry, well, guess what, baby girl? I got chickens. You know what I mean? That's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
Now, so Roy Cohn was the lawyer son of a lawyer father. His father's family, I believe, emigrated from Poland. And Roy Cohn's first kind of major historical thing that he wiggles his way into is he becomes, and maybe he did this with Blackmail. There's documented evidence that, his importance, he emerges as important in his early 20s.
Yeah.
When on even just his evil nature alone, he shouldn't have been able to, which is something that we'll hear echoed about Jeffrey Epstein later. But Roy Cohn is a lawyer who is helpful with McCarthyism, the Red Scare, and helping President McCarthy? Or was that it was a prosecutor or something?
Dude, I have no idea.
Good. But he was really
I'm here as
involved
the
in that.
ignorant sidekick.
Well, and it's exactly like the same thing. Like right now, if we say somebody is, a predator of some kind, that's like the scariest thing to label them as. It's going to be the most damaging to their reputation. It's exactly what communism was like during the Red Scare. And Roy Cohn was kind of at the center of that in using McCarthyism to weaponize it against other powerful people. He is on this anti-communist crusade, and he's establishing and maintaining and growing all of these organized crime affiliations, right? And so he's playing both sides of the law. He's working for the federal government to combat communism. He's also working with organized crime to collect information and to conduct probably crimes, right? He then gets involved with the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover. They're both gay, Roy Cohn and J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh, cool.
Which is fine with me.
Yeah.
And but they know that about each other, and they kind of are kind of holding each other in a blackmail kind of standoff.
How do we know this? This is from the...
This is all in Whitney Webb's book.
Okay.
And then each page of her book has great annotations about sources that report all this stuff, and she's divulging a lot of this. My goal is to take... It took me a whole week. The two books, it ends up being like 36 hours of content. Wow. And... but there's letters and there's stuff like that between... and I'm really just trying to get an overview because there's so much here.
Yeah.
The FBI still has a 4,000-page file on Roy Cohn that is still sealed.
Let's open it up.
But he's been dead for years. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why are we sealing files of dead people?
Right.
We can't hurt him. It's supposed to be sealed so we can't use it against him, but he's dead.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's
And this is
public
going to be a
domain.
theme. This is going to be an emerging theme. This is why I wanted to dedicate an episode to this, because it's like the same shit over and over and over again. And also, if you saw The Apprentice, it's a biopic of Donald Trump's early career, and Donald Trump was the apprentice to Roy Cohn, who, by the time he meets Donald Trump, has been blackmailing really, really powerful people on both sides of the law for decades.
Yeah.
And it's Donald Trump meets him. Donald Trump's a younger guy.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when he shows up in the story. Now, people have always done things like this. One of the people that was doing this kind of thing predominantly in Western Europe throughout the 20th century was a guy named Robert Maxwell. Say it, kids. Robert Maxwell. Now, he was European-based, lived in England for a long time. Ghislaine Maxwell's father.
Yeah.
Right? And Ghislaine is in the news. She met with the DOJ yesterday. She's all over the internet again. She's 62 now. Ghislaine grew up with Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew's been long implicated in the Epstein stuff
Yeah.
because he was so close with Ghislaine, and I think from what Whitney Webb conjectures, most of her life, right? Because Robert Maxwell is in publishing before we had TV and TikTok and shit. So he was one of the most powerful people because the printed word was so powerful. Yeah, and he was growing his business kind of aggressively and probably illegally all across Europe for a long time, buying up publications to control them, and he could use that power plus any secrets he gathered in this practice that we've been describing by other people against political opponents, and it could buy him great favor, and I'm sure it bought him great favor with the monarchy. Prince Andrew becomes friends with Epstein early in his affiliation with what is becoming at the time a transatlantic Israel-funded blackmail and secrets enterprise, right? So there's a book about Robert Maxwell that comes out in the 20th century, I think, called Robert Maxwell's Super Spy or something. And the conjecture is, and I think this is incorrect because I think it oversimplifies it, but I think the conjecture is that, he's only rich and powerful because he's working for a government that's made him that way. I actually think it's the opposite. I think the government pays and colludes with rich and powerful people because if they could just invent rich and powerful people, we wouldn't have very many of them, right?
Sure.
So, like, I don't think Jeffrey Epstein was in the CIA or directly in the Mossad.
Right.
But if you watch the blacklist, it's really easy to keep somebody on the payroll, slip them a little something, and then, they can tell you what's going on when you need them to tell you what's going on. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Money will buy you anything.
Yeah. And
It can't buy everything.
No. And
But it'll buy you anything.
And it should not.
Yeah.
And so Robert Maxwell is conducting this thing where I have information about you and I will ruin your career if you don't do what I want or what my friends want. He then tries in the late 80s, early 90s to start to grow his influence into the United States. And it's not long after that he is killed on his yacht, sort of mysteriously. Ghislaine, his youngest and probably favorite daughter, based off of my reading, maintains that it was not a suicide. And she also reported to the yacht immediately when the death was reported to remove files and documents and all kinds of things from the yacht. So she was sort of the closest to him, I think, at the end of his life. And then she had already been affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sure they had an intimate relationship at one point, especially when they were younger. But as soon as Robert Maxwell dies, Jeffrey Epstein kind of takes his role. He's already wealthy. We don't really know how. But after Robert Maxwell dies, we see all of his children, of which there's like 5, I think, trying to pick up a new version of his different business ventures. Some of them are in technology, some of them are in news media, some of them are in education, whatever. And it seems like Ghislaine was into the darkest of the stuff.
Yeah.
Right? The secret keeping and the leveraging and the whatnot. Not to mention, the sexual crimes that she's in jail for.
Right.
There's still, though, giant gaps in the understanding about how this stuff happens. Because, for example, we still have no explanation to why Jeffrey Epstein was allowed to start teaching at the Dalton School when he was himself a college dropout and hardly 20. It's like a prestigious private school. But then this really weird guy gives him that job. And then he uses that job to bounce over to Bear Stearns, which at the time at least was some kind of, Wall Street banking thing, investment thing, right? And he's identified as being really, really good at quantitative analysis for stock options. So something about him is really brilliant, and he's really good at that specific thing. That's one of the mysteries that we're going to identify. He was exposed shortly thereafter for lying about his college credentials, but he sells his way out of it, and he's saved by his superiors. He's made a limited partner, but then he's fired 2 years later for violations. He was manipulating stock prices and trading stock illegally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In part because you could say he didn't know any better.
Literally.
But then he's identified by this guy Hoffenberg as the perfect candidate for a really effective stock trader with a low moral compass, right? And Hoffenberg did 20 years in federal prison for one of the biggest Ponzi schemes of all time, and takes all the heat. Jeff doesn't have to take any of the heat, even though Jeff is what a lot of his victims know him as. I think that's how he introduced himself. We call him Jeffrey Epstein all the time, but you could call him Jeff.
Yeah.
And Jeff is spared yet again from that thing. Now, the common thread here is there could be blackmail about all of these people that are involved that we don't know. Hoffenberg attests that Jeff sold his soul to Leslie Wexner in 1986 for a $7 million investment. But he couldn't really elaborate on what that meant.
Yeah, that's...
No, but it is
crazy.
very interesting. After Jeffrey Epstein quits trying to have like a normal job,
Yeah.
he ends up being sort of a self-described financial bounty hunter, where he can reclaim money that's been stolen or lost or invested badly for people that still already have billions of dollars. At one point, he's operating a investment firm that the only clients are billionaires.
Nice.
And it's advertised as billionaires only.
Yeah.
Right? Which at the time sounds like a way to mostly launder money and to use it for illegal things.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm not for. So we still don't have an account for his origin of wealth, but we do have accounts with traffic exceeding billions and billions of dollars connecting him to rich and powerful people. What exactly he was doing to get all that money out of them, and whether or not he was doing that on his own, is yet to be seen, but probably not. Now, Robert Maxwell started this kind of stuff with a great commitment and loyalty to the government of Israel, and that they were kind of in on it together. So Israel helped Robert Maxwell turn his power into money, and then he used the secrets to help enrich the political and military goals often of Israel at the time. His daughter, involving Jeffrey Epstein, a lot of the money that comes into play there is from the same place, the same pattern of behavior.
So it sounds like he's like a professional blackmailer.
Well, and that's the thing. It kind of seems like the version of this that he would have been partaking in is the exact same thing Ghislaine, Robert Maxwell, and then before them, people like Roy Cohn were doing. Now, the whole Cohn story, that whole section of the book is really fascinating, and it's also very specific. We don't have documentation for all of the stuff Robert Maxwell was doing across Europe.
Yeah.
Also, the people that he was working for or reporting to were more powerful in Europe in that time. We would have less of those things. Things that have happened in and around the federal government in the last 100 years, we have a lot more evidence of. And I think a lot of it is to describe that pattern of intelligence and organized crime working together. And I guess as I'm talking about it, I guess Whitney would probably argue that intelligence is a government subsidized form of an organized crime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of the connection. Now, Jeffrey Epstein doesn't pop up in Palm Beach, Florida until 1990. He is not arrested by Palm Beach police until 2006. A report from the Palm Beach police does not survive until 2005, meaning there's had to have been reports, but there's 15 years in Palm Beach, Florida, where Jeffrey Epstein is just allowed to do the kind of sexual, perverted, predatory behavior that has been covered. I also watched Jeffrey Epstein Filthy Rich on Netflix. It's worth a rewatch, because some of those women are already dead now, and that documentary is not even that old. But and the reason this is important is because this means really the first time we see any serious criminal anything with Jeffrey Epstein is not until he's already been operating for like 30 years. A lot of these people in the book go to their grave with people not knowing how crazy and fucked up some of their shit was.
Yeah.
There's blackmail about basically every president since World War II is mentioned somewhere in the book because someone doing something illegal in the book is targeting a president in some way. It almost seems like, actually, Whitney exactly says that the intelligence operation that people like the Maxwells were running or attempting to run targets U.S. presidents and high-ranking U.S. officials specifically.
Yeah.
Which is a much different skill set than targeting, lower management.
Yeah.
And that being said, that also means that was allowed to go on for decades across multiple presidents. They were blackmailing Jimmy and Billy Carter because Billy had done some stuff that they were going to argue was illegal with his businesses or something about oil or something.
Yeah.
And I think there are some presidents that were probably more complicit, so we don't hear about it as much. Like the Bushes are connected, I think, to the same people that run the whole thing.
Yeah.
Of the blackmail and whatnot. But Clinton comes up a lot.
Yes.
Clinton
does come up a lot.
And it's a problem. But we see a recorded pattern of repeated victim suppression by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. This one girl whose last name was Farmer reported Jeff and Ghislaine to the FBI, and then Ghislaine taunted her and stalked her for years until she eventually lived in the mountains in total seclusion.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they were allowed to do that for at least 15 years, kind of completely uninterrupted. Palm Beach, finally, one of the victims who was in this documentary exposes this pattern of sensual massages. They immediately begin an investigation. Jeffrey Epstein then immediately begins throwing tons of money at investigating the police and the detectives himself.
Gotta start the blackmail.
Yeah, he's trying to blackmail and intimidate. That, and this is why the blackmail thing comes up, is because they're like, he's trying to blackmail the chief of police, a local prosecutor, local beat cops. He starts having
that's what he does
private
best.
Investigators go through the trash at the police station. So they have to put all of his reports and files in a special place so they don't end up in the trash.
Yeah.
When Jeffrey Epstein is finally arrested in 2006, Alan Dershowitz, who is one of Trump's previous lawyers, he was also involved in the OJ case. He's basically one of the most powerful lawyers in the country, but he's not a member of the bar in Florida. So he appoints Jeffrey Epstein's defense team for 2006. And it ends up being a single felony, even though the cops had been building a case with dozens of victims, hours of testimony, potentially 53-page indictment, including nearly 40 victims.
Yeah.
And then somehow his defense team gets that turned into a single felony. But it's a huge break where we realize, oh, wait a minute, this rich guy who has pictures of himself with all these important people is a sexual deviant.
Yeah.
And this is back in 2006, before we were even so used to and upset about sexual deviance.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It was a different time then, but it's the first time that he's really outed publicly for that kind of stuff. Then, as we've been hearing about more recently, Alex Acosta kills the charges after sitting on it for 2 years, and this becomes a violation of the Victims of Crimes Act or something.
Yeah.
The Victims of Crimes Protection Act or something. So this lawyer builds this civil case, which is what led to this Netflix documentary I watched. And we have some depositions from Jeffrey Epstein from the time, where because it was a civil case, even though he got completely out of this prosecution in Florida, we could still get depositions and still try to find some liability. Alex Acosta was the prosecuting attorney in Florida at the time. He then, in 2017, tells Trump's transition team that he didn't go harder on prosecuting Epstein because he was told that Epstein worked for intelligence, What I think that means is he has a close enough relationship with intelligence because the information he gathers is useful.
Yeah.
I don't think it means he has a pension plan with them. I don't think he has a desk at Langley. I think he is an entity that can then also, because you're doing contract labor like that, it's like if you deliver for Uber Eats and Postmates and DoorDash.
Yeah.
It's all one guy. But however you want to pay him to get your secrets and your bullshit and your underage women, apparently, not a big deal.
Yeah.
He'll work with you on that. So the thing that is bringing a lot of this back up is the fact that there is a statute that states that victims of a criminal have to be involved in the parameters of any deal that's reached with that criminal and prosecution, right? So that if somebody shoots at you, if I'm going to let them off with a lesser sentence, you have to be involved to sign off and be transparent about, oh yeah, we're going to let that guy out with time served because he's going to plead down to a lesser charge so we can get him out of here, right? So they didn't do that. The first time they ever hear about a deal, the deal is already signed, right? And Jeffrey is reporting to prison before they can do anything about it. He's also serves like the lightest prison sentence of like all time. He's allowed to leave for 12 hours a day and report back to jail in the evenings.
It's like they're having the conversation that's like, Jeffrey, buddy, we got to do something about this, okay? Like,
we got to put you in jail,
we
Jeff.
This time you've gone too far. We got to put you in jail. But you know what? I will let you out 2 weeks at a time so you can go still do your thing, still get your massages and everything. But
and that's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He would be allowed to go to his home because that's where his office was.
Yeah.
And he could have massages.
Yeah.
From girls that were, driven in from across the bridge in Palm Beach and given $200 when they have nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're lured in with the massage, and then in the documentary, which I don't like talking about the physical details as much.
Sure.
But they describe the process, and all these girls are telling the same story. He said he was going to give me $200 to give him a massage, and it wasn't until we were already in the middle of that it became scary and sexual, and and that was part of their move.
Yeah.
And so he only serves a couple of years in jail, and he's allowed to leave for 12 hours a day. And all of that stuff was decided before he ever reported to the jail. So they interviewed the warden of the jail in this documentary, and he says, look, this whole plan came from the district attorney's office. And we had very specific instructions. We'd never done anything like this for anybody before or since.
Yeah.
Right? Victims would often be compromised later as accomplices, similar to this guy Johnny, out of the Franklin scandal. There was this book called Who Took Johnny that his mom wrote, I think, about this boy that went missing, but there was something really sketchy about it, and she claims he visited her some years later and explained that this is what happened, and this is why I haven't been able to come home, is because once I was sucked up into this system with these abusers, they force you to do things that are illegal so that you don't report them for anything. 'Cause you'll just, in your mind, especially if you're an impoverished child, is, I'm going to be in jail with them. Right. And this is the exact same thing Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine were doing with their victims, is they identify them, young, some kind of tangential interest they can pull at, because they were connected to everything. They were paying for girls to go to school. They were paying for all kinds of stuff. And most of these girls come from like trailer parks across the bridge in Palm Beach where, they're from abusive households or they don't have any money. They've never seen $200 before. And that's how they lure them in. And then they get them to bring them other girls to say, okay, so listen, I'm giving you $200 for today. Every girl that you know that would be interested in this, if you bring them to me, I'm going to give you another $200.
Yeah.
And so all they have to do is say, hey, listen, this guy gave me $200 to give him a massage. If you go there, he'll give you $200. He'll give me $200. And that goes on. And there's dozens of women that claim to have been involved in this because it's like a pyramid scheme of abuse.
Yes.
And it spreads like that. And one of the investigators in the documentary is holding up a thing that this girl invited this girl who invited this girl who invited this girl. And he said, if I made the whole thing, it would cover this whole wall.
Well, we all know how a referral program is so lucrative. We've all we've all invited our friends on Facebook to something to get that referral.
I'm in Golf Clash right now. If you could send me 500 tokens in Golf Clash, I'll send them back to you.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that.
It's exactly like that. So it's not
also
it's
Jeffrey
not unheard
Epstein
of.
the mystery involves that, like, we didn't know about him until he was, like, rich and powerful. And we still don't know exactly how he first came in contact with that stuff, but it's exactly like the Roy Cohn story, where it starts off really, really young. Why is he at the Dalton School at 19? Why is Roy Cohn meeting with McCarthy at 23 or 24, or J. Edgar Hoover at 25? You know what I mean? There's a mysterious counterpoint there that makes me believe maybe they're appointed, maybe they're identified themselves as being valuable to this operation, and they're appointed by somebody who's maybe more aware of it, right? Les Wexner comes in when we start to talk about this. Les Wexner has publicly stated several times that he is connected to a Hebrew demon called a Dybbuk. This is in his own words. But there's a dark force that accompanies him. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I don't know enough about it. He's got some documented history of being adjacent to and friendly with organized crime figures. He was investigated as the primary subject originally for the execution-style murder of his own lawyer. But for some reason, that police report was immediately destroyed, and he was never prosecuted.
Yeah.
And then, like we mentioned, in 1980-something, he becomes connected with Jeffrey Epstein. And then Jeffrey Epstein becomes in charge of most of Les Wexner's wealth until 2009. So he's in charge of all of Leslie Wexner's money until he gets sued civilly until Epstein gets sued civilly in 2009.
And this is the one that Jeff sold his soul to.
Yes, for the $7 million of investment. So that's how they originally get connected. And it looks more like an appointment to me. It looks more like, hey, you're evil and loyal to the same things that I'm evil and loyal towards. So, and I'm getting old and you're a young guy and you keep getting kicked out of jobs for breaking the law. So why don't you come work for me? Is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
They don't write it out like that, unfortunately. And we get a lot of this information from whistleblowers who participated in Filthy Rich on Netflix, including the late Virginia Giuffre, or Virginia Giuffre. She worked at Mar-a-Lago at 16 and was eventually identified by Ghislaine as a suitable victim. She was a towel girl at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago at age 16 and almost immediately meets Jeff and Ghislaine.
Wow.
She meets Jeff at 16. She wants to be a masseuse. She has no family. She has no money. She gets sucked right in as this sort of victim accomplice thing I was describing to you before. She describes herself as the perfect victim because of all of those reasons. In 2025, after all of this, after this documentary comes out, after she's blown the whistle on all this stuff, long after Jeffrey Epstein is dead, she's hit by a bus and goes into kidney failure and is given 4 days to live.
Yeah.
But then she survives miraculously just to take her own life, I believe, 3 weeks later in the woods. And after she dies, somebody claiming to be her family, which is confusing to me because I thought she didn't have any until she got married and had kids. But her family comes out and says that her husband was abusive. And that in what is allegedly Virginia's diary, she says, the stronger I got, the angrier he got, meaning that as she began to participate in the whistleblowing and to, try to empower victims to come forward because she knows how many of them there are, her husband became increasingly agitated with that. Maybe he liked her better when she was, because this is what's crazy. Jeff and Ghislaine send her to Thailand to study massagery or something for a short time.
Massagery.
And this is where she meets her husband. They fall in love. They get married really quickly there. She calls and kind of says, hey, I got married. I'm starting a new life. Bye. And that was her departure after being a victim accomplice to Jeff and Ghislaine for years.
Yeah.
She's working with them, keeping up with their daily operations and also procuring and luring in other victims for years. And then she spends enough time away from them in Thailand that she develops the confidence to, escape. But she has to have been really, really low on the totem pole with her self-esteem at that time. And if this is true, that her husband was abusive and nobody found out until after she killed herself, that, which I'm not for, that it would make sense that he was attracted to the victimized version of her. And as she became more empowered and independent and able to, speak against the abuse she suffered, that was less appealing to him. I don't love that. I don't love any of that. But if that's true, that's what happens. I would also believe that it's possible that that's not true. But it's hard to know things. The thing that's interesting is Epstein is in position with Maxwell before Robert Maxwell dies, I think. And they're already sketchy before... When did Robert Maxwell... Yeah, he died November 5th, 1991. And already in the 90s, 95, 96, Jeffrey Epstein is visiting the White House dozens of times with Ghislaine and several young women. This happened repeatedly. I want to say like 17 times. Bill Clinton hosted Epstein, sometimes Maxwell, and unnamed younger women several times at the White House, I believe 17 times, amid not only Bill Clinton's sexual scandals, but also what we call Chinagate. And he flew on that plane several times. And he's photographed with Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker flying to Africa, smoking a cigar on a plane, which I didn't think you could still do even in the 90s. And the thing that came out in the book that was the most specific thing for somebody my age, I think we only know about Monica Lewinsky because of Blackmail.
Oh.
I think the Monica Lewinsky scandal is failed Blackmail. That this is covered in detail in the book, which you should read. It's on Audible. See, Clinton refused to pardon.
What?
You okay?
Oh, yeah, there was just this thing that snaps. Yeah.
Clinton refused to pardon this guy whose name I keep forgetting. It's all over the news right now. All your favorite channels on YouTube are talking about this week. Because everyone finally went back and read this book, I think is what happened.
Okay.
That, I don't remember his name. It doesn't matter. And a guy who was proven and found guilty of selling classified government information to Israel is in jail.
Okay.
Israel says, we need you to pardon that guy. Clinton says, I can't do it. There's no way I could do that and get away with it. And then immediately, the Lewinsky scandal comes out. It is said that there was 30 hours of illegally recorded phone sex in possession of the state of Israel at that time. Netanyahu was also in power in 97, like he is now. He wasn't in power that whole time, but he's back. Right?
Yeah.
And Whitney Webb describes if Clinton had just said, oh, yeah, I'll pardon that guy, no problem, immediately, I bet you people today would have no idea who Monica Lewinsky even was. And I think that whole thing came out because they said, listen, we're going to put this out if you don't pardon our spy. And he didn't pardon him immediately. They put the story out. It's his biggest scandal. And then at the end of his presidency, he commutes the sentence of that guy anyway. So he says, okay, time served to let that guy out of jail, which is different than a pardon. But he does it anyway. Trump is connected to the Epstein stuff way back into the 80s for sure. Of course, being, rich and powerful and predatory New Yorkers, they were already knew each other. But like we mentioned, Epstein and Maxwell were spending a lot of time at Mar-a-Lago as far back as years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
Virginia Giuffre, I'm sorry, just passed away. I think she was 39. They met her at Mar-a-Lago when she was 16. So easily over 20 years ago, right? So the same time that Epstein and Maxwell are blackmailing Clinton and hanging out with Clinton all the time.
Yeah.
And facilitating some of these illegal political deals, like what Clinton was found out to be doing with China. Trump's already involved, way before Trump even wants to be president. Lots of Jeffrey Epstein's victims were married off to his rich and powerful friends. It's said that Melania and Trump met on Epstein's plane for the first time. It's said that they had intercourse on that plane, the two of them.
Interesting.
Outside of holy matrimony, which I'm not for. And and there's a pattern of this. Virginia identifies several other victims who were people who were known as one of Jeff's girlfriends until, a couple years later, they end up getting married to one of Jeff's rich and powerful friends. It seems like it's like on purpose. Like they kind of control the flow of young, beautiful women to rich and powerful, evil people. Recently, as we come up to, this week, Trump is in the hot seat because he kind of kept talking about this and told us we would get all this stuff, and we didn't get any of it. And now J.D. Vance, I think, leaked that letter to the Wall Street Journal. I think J.D. Vance wants to emerge on top. I don't think he thinks Trump is going to survive this problem. And the problem with that for me is J.D. Vance is totally propagated by Peter Thiel from Palantir. This is where I'm going to connect these dots.
Go for it.
Peter Thiel is in charge of an AI software company called Palantir. And what Palantir is really good at doing is taking a huge collection of data and finding all of the connections between those data points and presenting it in a way that would allow you to, if you wanted to track people, like how they say we do now, but kind of involving all of the potential data. And Doge was kind of accused of maybe connecting Palantir with huge fragments of data spread out across the government that have never been centralized, in part because of this reason. One of Robert Maxwell's biggest ventures in the 80s was a software called Promise, which Israel bought or stole from somebody and then started making different versions of to sell people. So it was like the original Trojan horse kind of thing. But Promise's goal was, at the time, again, the internet was, or just software in general was a much more primitive thing then. But the idea behind the Promise infrastructure of software, I think, was exactly what Palantir is doing now. Taking what data we can connect and connecting it in a more efficient and weaponized way than previously possible. And Robert Maxwell made probably billions of dollars selling versions of this software across the globe to different governments mostly. Palantir's sort of the same thing. So it kind of seems like J.D. Vance used to be a real left-leaning guy, and then he got flipped by Peter Thiel. And I think Peter Thiel wants JD to be president, and they could be using the exact same system that is connected all the way back to the OG blackmailers we've been talking about. It's no coincidence that if they use this scandal to remove Trump from office, his natural successor is J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance is really the deliverer of that surveillance state where you could blackmail anybody for anything at any time. A lot of people also conjecture that Ghislaine and Jeffrey, though they were investing so much in technology, their system of blackmail and physical behavior that you would use to blackmail people just doesn't survive in a time where we can FaceTime, right? Where everybody has a camera all the time. There's no privacy. Victims can call the police from any device anywhere. You know what I mean? Their way of doing it was never going to survive anyway. And that perhaps the great network of political criminal blackmail that is covered in this book for 90 volumes or whatever is all connected, and it just has to kind of transmute the delivery system, right? It has to transform how it's getting its job done. And now, especially with Palantir or anything that would take its place, it's exactly what Morgan Freeman says in the Batman movie, where he says, it's too powerful. I shouldn't be able to spy on people with this cell phone machine or whatever. You know? And do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's one of the Batman movies that Morgan Freeman is.
Oh, he's the. Yeah, it's like either the Dark Knight or.
Yeah. But the one where they're using the cell phone data to sonar everybody so that you can see where everybody is all the time.
I don't remember specifically, but
He's standing in front of all these
I'm
screens.
imagining it. Yeah.
And so it's exactly what Palantir does with our metadata. If a powerful enough software can look at every device I'm in contact with, and every location, and every financial transaction, and every whatever, it's what they call the control grid.
Yeah.
Which is what another whistleblower we've talked about is insisting that they're attempting to do. I don't think Trump's going to be involved in too much of that. I think Trump was their way in, but I think Elon and Thiel and JD Vance want to establish this control grid. Everything's digital, everything's completely trackable all the time, like 1984, where like to get privacy at the beginning of the book, isn't he like laying in a corner of his house where he knew the camera couldn't see him?
Oh, that's crazy.
Isn't that a part of that book?
I don't know, but I need to reread it.
I want to say it's like the very first scene or something. He's like sitting in the kitchen, and he's like, because he's hiding from the computer thing that spies on them in their homes. As opposed to just sitting in front of the camera and putting on a nice show.
Yeah.
And so the thing that really started to emerge for me is Palantir is really just today's version of the Promise software, which was a huge scandal because it was allowing, I think, Israel to sell this software to all these different secure entities like governments, but then they always had their own back door. So it was like, oh, look, I made you a software that you need.
Yeah.
And then the whole time they can then use their access to that software to blackmail you. And they've been doing this on document since the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And so now it's 2025, and the PayPal mafia has their latest thing. I have a share of Palantir in my Robinhood wallet, I think.
Yeah.
And it's way up because it's just all still moving in that direction. We can send everybody to school online, and we don't have to worry about surveilling them when they're online. They're putting themselves online.
Yeah.
And if we move everybody off of cash, right, away from owning things outright, if everything is just leased and borrowed and paid monthly for all the time, then everything is on the control grid. And the more stuff that's plugged into the control grid, the stronger the control, and the crazier the other people seem who aren't plugged into the grid. It's like if you meet somebody without a cell phone now. It's like, what do you mean you don't have a cell phone?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be crazy.
What do you mean you don't have... Or in St. Louis, it could be, what do you mean you don't have a car? You don't have a car?
Yeah. I mean,
how do you get around?
But the cell phone is like much more like, dude, anybody has a cell phone.
No, but I mean, so imagine you come into contact with somebody that doesn't have one, has never had one.
Yeah.
As an adult.
Yeah. You'd have to go into the deep state to find somebody.
No, I'm sure they all have phones.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying that that's how quick it happens. Like, to not have a phone when we were in high school made sense. Only half of us had phones.
Yeah.
It was emerging. Not everybody was getting their kids' phones yet.
Yeah, it was like rather new.
Yeah,
and inexpensive.
And then when
technology.
we were in college, smartphones were new.
Yeah.
And so some people had smartphones and some people had brick phones. Some people had phones that were just phones still.
Yeah.
But that was 20 years ago. We're 80 years old.
It hurts.
So it's going to be the exact same thing. They'll be like, what do you mean you don't get all your food from Food Corp?
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't pay $1,000 a month to live in a brick shack that's owned by Palantir?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Yeah. What do you mean you don't work for the corporation? And that's exactly their goal.
Yeah.
And so Whitney Webb does a really good job of explaining how there's dozens and dozens of scandals layered throughout this book, which happens mostly in chronological order, which is really helpful, that they're all using the same combination of ingredients to play the same game. The context changes, but blackmail, intimidation is one of their primary techniques for achieving the things that they want. And she points out all these examples of things where blackmail was not exposed, but had to have been the case, or some form of collusion therein, because...
No collusion.
Exactly.
No collusion.
because of all the different things that even predate the Maxwells and the Epsteins and the Trumps, that all these political and mob figures were doing with each other that really only could have worked out the way they worked out because they were colluding.
Yeah.
There's also a recent interview I've been trying to get through. There's this girl, Anya Wick, who claims to be Jeffrey Epstein's niece, and that their family is a part of what she calls the cult of Baal, which is a network of Satanists who identify as normal families. They tell everybody they're Jewish, but they don't practice Judaism at all. Instead, they're in some kind of multi-generational, like, sexy blood cult, where they're...
Sexy blood cult.
It sort of reminds me of if you do some deep diving into the polygamy stuff, and how some of these people, they never file their kids' birth certificates, and they never take them to doctors or dentists or anything, so kids get out into the world, or they escape a polygamist compound, and they have no idea how to do anything or what to do, and they have half their teeth because they've been so neglected and so off the grid, because you can't call DFS on a kid that doesn't exist, right?
Sure.
And so if you know that you're perpetuating a system of abuse, it's common to try to leave it off the books, like in season 1 of True Detective.
You got to cover your tracks.
Yeah, that turns out the serial killer they were looking for, nobody knew he existed because he was like the half brother of a guy that only had a birth certificate and like one speeding ticket, and it was just like the paper trail was so small, right? That so this girl Anya Wick, I can't verify her credibility. The most credible thing I've seen her on is Sean Atwood, and I'm not going to hold my breath.
Sure.
But she fills in some of the gaps that. And this was on Oprah in the 90s. There was a girl who came on Oprah and was explaining that my family pretends to be Jewish, but we actually worship Satan. This is a clip that I've seen. And this girl, Anya Wick, claims to be not only Jeffrey Epstein's niece, but very much a victim of this thing. And in this thing, a lot of kids were sort of sold into different industries, entertainment and whatnot. I believe Anya Wick may have even been a child actor at some point, because there's this system of rich and powerful and increasingly private people who have this allegiance to this cult of this demon, and that's where a lot of the inspiration for this behavior comes from. So the game at the top may be political blackmail, but it originates from this place where there's supernatural ideology that plays into it that doesn't lead anywhere good.
Yeah. Listen, this is crazy.
It's crazy, and the reason it's so crazy is because every time Whitney would start talking, I love her voice. It wasn't her voice. It was an actress.
Sure.
I also love Whitney Webb's voice, though. She does interviews on YouTube and stuff. That as you're going through it, it's like, why is she talking about any one of these things? And then she explains to you exactly how they're all connected, and it's repeating this pattern. And the reason why there's holes in the wisdom is because the whole point is to do these things in secret, right? To launder the money, not pay taxes, commit crimes, extort people, which you cannot do publicly. It's the whole point of extortion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If everybody knows the whole thing. And so a lot of it's not documented, and a lot of the documentation is destroyed, either under duress or by the people directly involved.
Well, that's probably all of, I know that Musk isn't here because he's not really a part of this, but like...
That's also not true.
Sure. Okay. Let's just, because like, duh, he
they
is.
were investing in like everything.
Yeah. So like there's some sort of like blackmail that didn't work necessarily, or at least started this whole thing whenever Trump and Musk first broke up.
Yeah.
That kind of snowballed from there.
I don't even know why. I mean, there's pictures of Elon Musk with Ghislaine Maxwell. Elon Musk is loyal to the nation of Israel, which is fine. But we also know the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
Like it's not dangerous to say that, hey, there's some things wrong with Israel. Because, there's news outlets all over the globe that are releasing footage that the U.S. media won't release, but of them massacring and starving children on purpose. Again, just to remove everybody they're trying to colonize in that space. They want that whole space. It is easier if all those people are deceased, which I'm not for.
Yeah.
But this is the same government, and not just the same government, some of the same exact officials who were involved in blackmailing presidents over the last several decades. And it goes back the chain to Israel has been involved in political blackmail of American officials since at least the 1940s.
Yeah.
And it's so I think that's why it's a bigger story, and I think it's also why Trump is in such a pickle,
Yeah.
because Israel has anything on him that they want, especially because he was feeding them stuff by just hanging out with that guy for so many years.
Yeah.
And writing him letters and letting him call him his best friend. And we're not going to be able to save both relationships. We're not going to be able to fix this problem with Trump and the American people and to also maintain our relationship with Israel the way it is.
Yeah.
Just because their fingerprints are all over the whole thing. I mean, Netanyahu was the exact person blackmailing Clinton. And then I think Netanyahu started this war more aggressively to keep himself out of jail because he's been indicted for war crimes already.
Yeah.
But his government doesn't have protocols to indict or remove him when they're at war.
Yeah.
And this is all in the book.
All in the good book.
It's all in the,
All in the
good book.
It's in the good book of Whitney
it's a great
Webb.
book, but it's not the good book.
Yeah. It's no. It's a good book.
I mean, the book is good.
Yeah.
I like the book.
The book is good.
How much time are we at?
We're at hour and 6.
Oh, that's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah. No, it was thick.
Yeah, and everybody this week it's all they're talking about, and so I finally used the opportunity of the recent scandal to go back and read both volumes of the book to really try to understand the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you end up feeling my frustration has much less to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I think Jeffrey Epstein committed a lot of those crimes. I also think he was emboldened by people he was committing crimes with, and I think that's why he committed them. I don't know. I'm not convinced he committed suicide. Because Ghislaine says it doesn't make sense that he would commit suicide because they didn't think they were going to jail because they had that signed non-prosecution agreement from 2006.
Yeah.
Which is what Ghislaine, I think, is maintaining right now. She's like, I should not be in jail.
Yeah.
Because we signed a non-prosecution agreement in 2006.
And that's and that's why in one part of my brain I did kind of lean more towards like, okay, I could see how he could have been in the headspace to want to commit suicide.
Sure.
You know, like there's no exit. He wasn't
even in prison.
He was in jail. He was in jail. He was like,
it's
okay,
different than prison, kids. You're not supposed to be in jail for that long.
That's true. Okay. And so like maybe you're not as desperate, like you have a little hope. You know, you haven't been right, he was never sentenced, or he was. Did he die before?
He hadn't been convicted yet.
Yeah.
He just got arrested again.
Exactly. So, I think he had more hope. He had like maybe more strings to pull, you know, but he was trying to work his blackmail magic. Maybe he was, people were afraid that he wasn't going to be able to hold up his end of the deal, whatever it was. He was going to talk. Yeah. So I could also, actually, I do see more as to how he would have been murdered. And there's the missing minute. What about the missing minute from how long does it take to strangle somebody? I don't know. Was it asphyxiation? Was that?
But also the original. I almost said choreographer. The original coroner said he had 3 bones broken in his neck that are not consistent with self-hanging.
Okay.
They're more consistent with forced strangulation. He was also cellmates with a murderer. There was obviously huge lapses in supervision. And I would not be surprised if he wasn't dead. He's probably playing basketball with Osama bin Laden.
Probably.
Underground, in a base.
Yeah.
So, Trump is fucked.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey Epstein facilitated a lot of crimes, but he was not the mastermind. He was a placeholder for something much worse, something much older and much larger and much worse.
And like, who does J.D. Vance think he is? He's going to be able to uphold the promises that Trump made when he was president. Whenever Trump is finally impeached.
That's the thing. If you become vice president after, let's say, Trump goes to fucking prison for something that is that he's proven to probably have done.
Yeah.
Right. Then J.D. Vance isn't going to get a second term.
I don't think so. I mean, that's what it feels like as far as what
nobody likes
MAGA
him. He's
is.
all over the internet. The only way he gets into office is if Trump has to come out of office.
Yeah.
And he's not going to just win.
I've come across some like random right-wing poll stuff that like kind of dances across my feed sometimes. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? And I think in those pictures, it was J.D. Vance was like the most likely to be nominated for the Republican Party in 2028. However,
the RNC wants that because an incumbent is
like, who the fuck is J.D. Vance though? You know what I'm saying?
He's not anybody.
Like,
he was a Marine,
nobody.
and then an author, and then the protege of
Donald.
Peter Thiel.
Oh, Peter Thiel, right?
Yeah, he's handed to Donald Trump.
So he's just another puppet. But this
I don't even think
puppet
J.D.
doesn't
Vance-
have the widespread respect
But that's
like
the thing.
Donald Trump
He's the
does.
delivery system for the control grid for
Sure.
the
He's-
Palantir, where we can take what Robert.
He's the
Maxwell,
one with the biggest asshole that you can put your whole fist up.
Yeah.
And say
the biggest puppet hole.
the biggest puppet hole.
And that's what we'll call the episode. And the real thing is he's just the vessel to deliver Palantir kind of to the center of our government to allow the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, to spy on everybody the way Robert Maxwell used to use software to spy on powerful people. And there's connection points all the way in between. It's not just the repeating of the same pattern. It's a lot of the same people, a lot of the same money, a lot of the same money that's been gutted out of our government and has been missing for 25 years. And a lot of the people that are involved and closest to the issue right now have been involved for a long time. And it's just too public. People are going to find out.
Yeah.
And I invoked the Blessed Mother the other day in my car thinking
No,
about
you
this.
didn't.
I was driving
No, you
around
didn't.
with the baby, and I was just like, you know what, Jesus, let it all come out. And you got to help me watch over this baby, because it's really bad. Because right now, they shut down Congress early for the summer, so they couldn't do a vote to force a deposition from Ghislaine Maxwell. So then a special committee had to appoint a vote within Congress of just that committee to go get it. And then so that's why the only reason the DOJ went yesterday was because they kind of had to. But they're definitely trying to get Ghislaine to say, hey, tell on somebody, just not the people that can give you a pardon.
Yeah.
Because she definitely wants out of jail.
For sure.
And she also was not found guilty of as many crimes as we've even talked about her doing today.
Yeah.
I want to say she only got convicted of 3 charges.
So that's the next move. You know, Donald Trump just recently said,
as we sit here
I
right now, the
can.
move is we're waiting to see what's going to happen now that we're getting information to DOJ from.
And so what do they
Ghislaine.
gain if they pardon Ghislaine?
They want Ghislaine to say something to help them wrap up this case for the public without implicating Donald Trump.
Yes.
And so I'm sure that's what they're working on is how much can we get out of you for people to look at, and can we leave all the parts with Trump out of it, which is going to be hard, because in this case they never said Virginia Giuffre was sold to them by Donald Trump, but they met her there.
Yeah.
So that's their biggest whistleblower. That's their biggest victim, and she was with them for a long time as an accomplice, slash victim slash at the same time.
Yeah.
And conveniently, she's dead. The original Epstein lawyer is dead now. The original Epstein investigator from Palm Beach is dead now. All of the surviving members said they were what's the word? Followed and intimidated and investigated by private investigators for Epstein. So the ones that are dead, you have to assume some of them at least are dead for a relevant reason. And JD Vance had dinner with Tim Dillon last week, and apparently the official narrative they want to run is that Trump is scared that the powerful people will kill him if he puts it all out. But then we have tons of evidence already that's out of it's more likely that, he's got a problem. He threw a party that was attended exclusively by young girls and Jeffrey Epstein and himself. Not a bunch of people like the two of them. The two of them and a bunch of contestants of a pageant or something. And they both had modeling agencies that were eventually closed for abuse and I don't know if the word was trafficking they used at the time, but grooming. And I don't know. But you got to stay tuned, and you got to read One Nation Under Blackmail, and you got to go watch Filthy Rich on Netflix, and the pieces will be clear to you. I could never cover in 1 hour the amount of stuff I've consumed in the last week. If you go and look at my YouTube algorithm, it's only people talking about this issue in this case.
Yeah.
Which also makes me think it's a bigger thing. I mean, a lot of people think they're blowing all of this up to draw attention away from the big beautiful bill and the negative implications.
Sure. But there's obvious smoke screens that are trying to be put up. Cane sugar, Coca-Cola.
Oh, he's letting loose anything. That's what that song was about at the beginning. It's like, I'll bomb Iran. We'll put cane sugar back in the Coca-Cola.
I'll do what you want. He's the only one that's drinking Coke.
Release the tapes.
Yeah.
Also, the Diddy stuff is real quiet.
It is real quiet. He was
found guilty of some of the charges.
Of prostitution.
Yeah, RICO is complicated because RICO is probably unconstitutional anyway, and how are you going to be in a RICO case by yourself?
I don't know what that is.
RICO is racketeering. It's the conspiracy to facilitate and commit crimes.
Yeah.
And so this is how they cleaned up. Rudy Giuliani, did a lot of this in New York to clean up New York, that a lot of these mob guys that have podcasts now were all brought in on RICO cases, where it's like, we know you 10 people committed these 11 crimes, and we're now, for the first time, we can charge you with a new charge because they're all connected, and it makes it all worse.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys will tell you that's bullshit, because it used to just be, the murderers get charged with murder, and the thieves get charged with thievery and whatnot. But the RICO thing allows you to kind of reveal in court documents how it was an organized crime thing. And that's how they approached the Diddy thing first, because it was a combination of abuse and trafficking and drugs and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Guns he's not supposed to have. But that's the thing. I mean, a lot of this is a big deal, but it's also being blown way up as the main thing right now while something else is happening. Something else is up, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful while you're reading these books and catching up on all this research. You got to be careful out there.
Absolutely. Be cautious. Be observant.
Yeah, you need to pray for discernment.
And for reconciliation.
Well, guys, that's been another episode of Jacob V Weekly. Caddyshack, save a life for 9, jacobv.com, patreon.com/JacobV. We'll see you next week.
Bye.